My partner, who is 28 years old, and I, who am 26 years old, have been carpooling to work for a few months, and quite a bit in the past for different jobs. Over the course of our relationship, which has lasted 5 years, he has had countless issues with his license because of a big incident that happened when he was young. Since I met him, he has crashed 3 cars, 2 of which weren't his fault. This ultimately resulted in him completely losing his license. This resulted in me being the one that had to drive us around to do everything. We have traveled across the country for work, and more often than not, we live 5 to 6 hours away from his family. It's always been up to me to get us there to visit multiple times a year. I financed my car in 2019, and the car payments aren't cheap. I'm already almost at 200,000 kilometers, and the car is not even half paid off. This stresses me out because I would hate to completely wear the thing out and be left with expensive repairs while still needing to continue paying for it for years. He does help me pay for insurance, but I pay for the car payments by myself. Another worry is that if he gets into an accident, I believe that I will be on the hook for it. My driving record is completely clean, and I would hate to lose that and be out thousands of dollars. I stopped working with him. The job site is a 30-minute commute one way out of town. He has been taking my car every day without a valid license. I told him to look into carpooling, and he did. He found a situation that works, yet he still asks to take the car. He asked this morning, and I told him that I want him to move towards carpooling and explained my worries that I mentioned above. He said, "Fine." I could tell he was disappointed. I asked him, "Are you okay?" He said, "I'm fine." I was sensing a bit of resentment. I started second-guessing myself and thought maybe I should just let him take the car. I asked, "How does this make you feel?" He said, "I'm fine." I offered to pick him up from the carpool drop-off spot so he doesn't need to take the bus home. He refused. I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "I'm starting to get really frustrated right now." I said, "What, really?" He raised his voice at me. "Just leave me alone." This made me feel upset, and I said, "Okay, get out of here." And he said, "Forget you, my name." He got up out of bed, slammed the bathroom door, got ready in a huff, and stormed out the door. He is often very quick to anger with me. Quite honestly, I fear upsetting him, which is why I kept inquiring about how he felt after I set the intention to move forward. This is just one instance out of many in our relationship. I'm completely at a loss, but a part of me feels bad for not letting him take the car. But a part of me feels so disrespected, and I know this type of language is hurtful. We've been having talks about breaking up because I feel I will never trust him again after many past betrayals, domestic violence, and infidelity. What are your thoughts? Advice is welcome. Now for an update. A lot of people are not sure how he lost his license. Because of the major crash when he was young, he accrued negative 27 points on his license. The crashes that followed made it worse. He was speeding in my car once and got a ticket. The ticket itself was around $200, but insurance charges the driver for each negative point on the license. The ticket ended up costing thousands. He didn't pay it. It went to collections and they just suspended his license. Now for another update. This morning he was getting ready for work. I asked him, "How did you sleep?" He let out a big sigh and said, "I slept okay." He sounded very upset. I asked him if everything is okay. He said, "I was supposed to be at work for 5:30 a.m., but couldn't because I don't have a ride to work that early." I said, "I'm sorry, but you can't drive my car. Also, there is no insurance." He said, "I would have paid for your insurance." I said, "Even if you did pay for my insurance, if you get caught or get into an accident, it would be void, and I would be at fault and potentially sued for any damages, and I would need to keep paying for a car I don't have." He kept interrupting me during this sentence, saying, I know. I asked, "Why would you want to put me in that situation?" From what I recall, he didn't have much to say. He left for work, and I stood my ground. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I know it's not an answer to your question, but leave me alone? Forget you? What is he? 3. It feels like when my youngest is about to have a toddler tantrum because he couldn't play with a toy. As for your concerns, I would say he can get over it. If he wants to drive so badly, he can go get a driver's license and do it the right way. Otherwise, sorry, Charlie, it could very well end up being your responsibility. Depending on the circumstances, especially if someone else gets injured and it is his fault, you could end up with jail time and a criminal record as well. Don't do it. Comment 2. Since I met him, he has crashed 3 cars, 2 of which weren't his fault. This ultimately resulted in him completely losing his license. How do you lose a driver's license in this situation? One accident that is your fault? Maybe drunk driving? Drugs? If the other 2 accidents were not his fault, it doesn't make sense for him to lose his license. Now for the update. A couple of days after my last fight with my partner, I got a call from our mutual friend Sam. Sam casually mentioned seeing my partner driving a different car. Like, what? I asked for details, but all Sam could say was that the car looked familiar but couldn't pinpoint whose it was. So I had this gut feeling. I decided to do some detective work. I drove by the local diner where my partner usually goes for lunch. You know, the place with the best fries. I parked down the street and just sat there, waiting to see if he would show up. I know, it's a bit much, but hear me out. After a short wait, he arrives at the diner, getting out of a car that wasn't his. My heart sank. I recognized the car as belonging to a woman from his past, Sarah. He always talks about how good of a friend she is. Anyway, I watched him walk into the diner without even looking back. I didn't confront him right then and there. No, I went home and did some digging. I looked up Sarah on social media, finding a recent post of her with my partner at this local event. And get this, the post was dated just a day after our last fight. Suspicions were confirmed. The next day, I confronted him about the car and the social media post. I was like, so, I heard you were driving a different car. He claimed it was just a coincidence and that Sarah was only a friend. I wasn't buying it. I decided to dig deeper. I reached out to another mutual friend who confirmed that my partner had been hanging out with Sarah more often lately. So here I was, drowning in this mess of lies. I then decided to attend a birthday party for my partner's coworker, where Sarah would also be present. I thought, why not? At the party, I made my presence known, strategically engaging in conversations around my partner and Sarah. My partner seemed uneasy when he noticed me mingling with Sarah. I was like, how do you know my partner? His reaction was priceless. I asked Sarah about her relationship with my partner, keeping the tone light. She casually mentioned that she and my partner had been catching up since he lost his license. I swear, I caught a glimpse of my partner's reaction, and he looked uncomfortable. As the night went on, I confronted my partner in front of everyone. He tried to deny any wrongdoing, but I shared what I had learned from Sam and the mutual friend. He became defensive and raised his voice, claiming I was overreacting. His friends began to question him, creating this really awkward vibe. The next day, I told him we needed to talk. We met at a coffee shop where he looked visibly nervous. I laid everything out about the car and the events from the party. He admitted to spending time with Sarah but insisted nothing romantic happened. I told him I wanted to end the relationship, stating that trust was irreparably damaged. I packed his stuff while he was at work, planning to drop them off at his mom's. I loaded everything into the trunk and drove to his mom's house. When I got there, she greeted me, looking confused but supportive. I handed over the stuff and explained everything briefly. Then, out of nowhere, my partner showed up, shocked to find his stuff at his mom's. The confrontation escalated, and I calmly explained my decision. His mom tried to mediate, but I stood firm, leaving no room for discussion. I walked away, finally free. I can't believe I went through all of that. Like, how did I end up at a party confronting my partner in front of his coworkers and a woman I barely know? It was wild and super awkward, but honestly, I just wanted the truth. I've been feeling this weight lift off my shoulders as time goes by, and now that the dust has settled, I'm realizing how much I've dodged a bullet. I'm not saying I'm ready to jump back into dating or even trust anyone again, but I guess I'm just proud of myself for standing up and walking away, even when it was hard. I don't know what else to say. Thank you for listening. Edit. The response to my breakup story has been overwhelming, so I wanted to provide some context on what happened with Sarah. It's been 3 weeks since the party incident, and I haven't seen or heard from her. My ex hasn't contacted me either, which I appreciate. I found out from a mutual friend that my ex and Sarah are now dating. He claimed to have broken up with me before starting anything with her. As for any lingering feelings, I've realized I need time to focus on myself before dating again. I'm not in a rush, but I feel more hopeful about the future. Thanks for your support. Am I the idiot for telling my husband he can leave if he thinks he'd be better off single? My husband and I have been married for a little over a year now. We've had our share of arguments over the course of our relationship, and although some have been pretty brutal, we've always managed to bounce back somehow. We share a son who is 7 months old, and my husband has a daughter who is 10 years old from his first marriage. We've had another argument tonight, which started with my husband being passive-aggressive due to lack of intimacy. I've been struggling since giving birth, as intimacy has been somewhat painful. A huge issue I have with it is my husband's entitlement when it comes to it. He equates being in a marriage with having access to intimacy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is outright disgusting and completely wrecks the experience for me. Emotional satisfaction, support, security, he does not connect the dots. After being intimate, I feel used and like I've let myself down when I give in to his advances. If I turn him down, he goes on a tirade where he basically regrets ever meeting me, acts like a victim because I have tricked him into having a baby, and says he is depressed because my presence is sucking the life out of him. He says he always had an outstanding intimacy life up until he met me, sex with me is lousy, and that he should probably be single and mess around. According to him, I have zero interest in anything but taking care of the baby. I have no taste, and I watch television all day, just like my parents. Recently, I've been starting to notice a pattern of him feeling superior to me and my family. He feels like we have nothing in common, and he doesn't want to live like this anymore. Tonight, I gave up. I said, if this is how you truly feel about me, then please, let me go. I know you don't see any positives in our relationship, but we have a wonderful son together, and I want you to be happy. I won't stand in your way. We can talk about this like adults and in a respectful manner. Just give me some time to figure out my next steps. That made him go even crazier. He started belittling me, hurling insults, and trying to put me down. I cannot do this anymore. I'm tired, and I don't understand him. He insults me and seems to actively dislike me with every cell of his body, yet does not want to let me go when I call his bluff and starts backpedaling. Do you think there is anything I could propose to salvage our marriage? Or should I give up and get out before our son is big enough to witness this shipwreck of a marriage? I hate the feeling of being the one to pull the plug on my marriage, but I do not know how to bounce back after the things he threw in my face tonight. Not only do I feel like he doesn't love me and has checked out of the marriage, I doubt he even likes me as a person. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I am so sorry, OP. Reading this gave me profound disgust. I cannot imagine how it feels to live this every day. The pattern where you somehow bounce back is likely occurring through your standards, self-respect lowering, and your needs practically evaporating to keep the peace. A hard truth is, his emotional coercion to manipulate you into meeting his needs for intimacy isn't okay and is a form of abuse. It can be considered marital rap. Please read Lundy Bancroft's Why Does He Do That? It's available for free PDF download all over Reddit. He doesn't respect women and sees you, and most likely others around him, as an extension of his needs or how others can benefit him and his life. This is not a marriage and is a farce of a partnership. I'm sorry you weren't able to recognize this sooner to evade this situation. The good news is you can model better behavior as a single parent, better than your partner ever could. Whatever masculine or father figure this person is that you've married, you don't want your son emulating him, and you don't want your daughter to understand this is what a normal relationship looks like. I'm only sorry he will remain having custody of his little girl. Get out for yourself, but also for your child. Big hugs. It's only up from here. Comment 2. Please let me go, yet he does not want to let me go. What do you mean, let me go? He doesn't have any right to let or not let you walk. What he's saying to you is gross and hurtful. There's no bouncing back from this. There is only accepting, enabling, and encouraging further abuse. Just go. Get your lawyer to communicate with him. Sorry this happened. Your son is much better off not experiencing or thinking this behavior is okay. Just go, consult with domestic violence organizations, as what he's doing is domestic violence. It's abuse. Pack up your stuff while he's at work. Leave the big stuff, if any, is yours, and go. Be safe, and good luck. Now for the update. Here's what happened after the fight with my husband. It's been just over 2 days since the argument. Honestly, I've just been trying to keep it together, taking care of our son and keeping things normal. I mean, what else can you do, right? The kiddo doesn't care about adult problems. He just wants to be fed, changed, and entertained. My husband? Yeah, he's been totally MIA. Spent most of his time in the living room, just glued to the TV. It's like he's living in a different world. I've been over here, juggling nap times and feedings while he's just checked out. I decided I couldn't do this alone anymore, so I reached out to my parents for support. They live a bit away, but I invited them over for dinner. Honestly, I needed the help and some adult conversation. My mom showed up early as usual. She came with a homemade lasagna and dessert. Bless her heart. My dad arrived shortly after with a bottle of wine. They know I need it. I set the table while my mom played with our son in the living room. It was nice to see him so happy. My husband finally joined us for dinner, but it was like having a stranger at the table. He barely spoke the entire time, just pushed food around on his plate. I tried to engage him in conversation, like asking about his day at work or something, but he gave me one-word answers and avoided eye contact like it was a sport. My parents could feel the tension. They were giving each other worried glances the whole time. After dinner, my dad suggested we play a board game to lighten the mood. My husband participated, but he wasn't really there, you know? He was just a body in the room, sulking in silence. Halfway through the game, he snapped at my dad over something so trivial, like a mistake in the game rules. My dad was taken aback and tried to defend himself, but that only made things worse. I could feel the tension rising, so I jumped in and suggested we take a break. My husband stormed out to the backyard, and just like that, it was silent. My mom and dad exchanged concerned looks, definitely knowing something was off. I went outside to find my husband just pacing and muttering to himself. I confronted him about his behavior, but of course he played the "I'm just overwhelmed" card. I went back inside, leaving him outside. My parents tried to comfort me, but honestly, how much can you comfort someone? My mom suggested we talk about everything openly to clear the air, so we all sat down. My dad asked my husband if he wanted to share what was bothering him, and finally, he admitted he felt trapped and overwhelmed by parenthood. He got defensive, saying I had changed since the baby was born, like I was supposed to be the same person after pushing a human out of my body. I decided to take our son to the nursery for a diaper change. I just needed a moment away from all the drama. While I was in the nursery, my mom came in to help me. She asked me if I felt safe in my marriage, which totally caught me off guard. I just didn't answer. I was too focused on changing our son. After that, I rejoined everyone in the living room, and my husband was still sulking. The atmosphere felt heavy, like you could cut it with a knife. My parents tried to lighten things up with jokes, but you can only joke so much in a situation like that. Later that evening, my husband went to bed early without even saying goodnight to me. I stayed up, cleaning the kitchen, just trying to keep my mind occupied. The next morning, I left a letter on his pillow before I took our son to the park. I just needed to get out of the house. When I returned home, he was waiting for me in the living room with the letter. He seemed calmer, and he told me he wanted to have a serious conversation about everything. We sat down and discussed everything openly. He admitted he was struggling with all the changes, and honestly, so was I. We made plans to seek help together, like couples therapy or something. We also agreed we needed to communicate better moving forward. He suggested a family outing next weekend to reconnect as a family. And honestly, it sounded good. I just want to be a family. I want my son to grow up in a happy home. I don't know where we go from here, but at least we're trying, right? To answer a few questions, my husband and I have been together for over 3 years and married for a year. His attitude changed significantly after our son was born. I had postpartum depression, which I'm still dealing with. My parents are supportive but live an hour away. We are both first-time parents. Am I the idiot for calling off my engagement after my fiancé chose his addict brother over our family? My fiancé Max doesn't see it, but his parents are extremely manipulative people. His parents adopted his two brothers when Max was about 12 years old. Leo was 8 and the other brother was 5 when they were adopted. Max is his parents' biological son. From the point of their adoption, I get the impression that Max was parentified a lot. His brothers both had pretty severe trauma, and because of that, they lashed out often. The stories he tells me of their childhood and how his younger brothers behaved are horrific. For example, smearing feces on his pillows and bedroom walls. Max was treated like another parent and would babysit his younger brothers for extended periods. His parents would then constantly berate Max about his brother's behaviors and how he wasn't taking good enough care of them. The behaviors were from both brothers, but mostly from Leo. Now, Leo became an addict in his early teens. My fiancé says it's because of the trauma of early life, which I am sure there is a link, and about 5 years ago, Leo got clean. However, he is still an extremely immature, rude, and mean person who will constantly blame anyone else for his issues. Max is constantly making excuses for Leo, even when he is rude to me or our son. Leo in the past has texted me harassment when even the slightest thing doesn't go his way. For example, he screamed at me, calling me a fat beach because I didn't hear him ask me to pass over the ketchup at a family barbecue. I now refuse to go to family events if I know Leo will be there. About 3 weeks ago, I came to a family meal at Max's parents' house. I was told that Leo would not be there, and he wasn't for the first half. However, he came late, and instantly I could see he was either high, drunk, or something else. I haven't seen him in a while, but it was obvious from that point he had relapsed. I tried to tell Max that I was uncomfortable and wanted to leave, but Max asked me to stay a bit longer, which I did. I know I am an idiot. It won't happen ever again. In less than an hour, Leo had caused a screaming match, and this time it was at my 5-year-old son, and it was over something incredibly stupid, like always. As soon as Leo started, I picked up my son and told Max that I was leaving, and that he was a pathetic man for letting his brother speak to our son the way he did. To my surprise, this seemed to spark something in Max. He defended me and our son and pointed out how toxic all his family were. He told them they were no longer invited to the wedding and that he never wanted to see any of them again. I felt such pride in him. But not even 3 weeks later, Max is already back to his role of trying to save Leo. Leo admitted that he had a drug problem again. I could have told you that from the one meeting I had, and to which Max is acting as if it is a huge shock. I literally told him on the drive home it was obvious Leo was high. Leo went in for treatment, and Max is again acting like he needs to drop his life to protect and defend his family, who, let's be clear, don't even like him. If he doesn't act like their servant and punching bag, they don't talk to him. I am so disappointed that Max is already back to this after he told me he was going no contact with his whole family. It is making me want to call off the entire wedding. He's been visiting Leo in treatment every day, which is against the recommendations of the place. And he said he wants to take our son to see Leo. I said if he takes our son anywhere near Leo again, it will mean the end of our relationship. Full stop. I just don't know what to do. Is this the end? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Read your fiancé's posts. He is still being manipulated by the family. I don't see this changing anytime soon. The worst part is he is taking your son to see the uncle and teaching your son that the uncle's behavior is okay, behind your back. I suggest leaving and implementing a parenting plan that prevents the uncle from being around your son. Comment 2. Is this Max? Now for the update. I'm back with another update on my life, and let me tell you, it's messy as hell. So a few months have passed since that big blowout at the family dinner. You know, the one where Leo was acting all kinds of crazy, and I was ready to throw him out of the house. Since then, I've tried to talk to Max about my concerns for our son. I mean, what kind of dad wants to drag their kid into that mess? But every time I bring it up, he just brushes me off, saying he needs to support his family. Like, what does that even mean? It's all about family support these days. It's been the same story over and over again. Max spending time with Leo, going to visit him at treatment, whatever. He says it's all for support, but I can't shake this feeling that something's off. Max has been so distant lately, like he's living in a different world or something. He's always on his phone texting or whatever, and when I ask him about it, he just says it's work stuff. I don't buy it. Last weekend we went on a family picnic just to try and have a normal day, you know. Max gets a call from Leo and just gets up and walks away. I didn't think much of it at first, but then he was gone for over an hour. When he finally comes back, I ask what was up, and he just says it was a quick check-in. I mean, an hour for a quick check-in? Yeah, right. A week after that, Max brings up visiting Leo in treatment. He wants to take our son with us. I lost it. I told him there was no way in hell our kid was going around Leo. Max tried to argue with me, saying it was important for family connections, and his voice was getting louder. I stood my ground, and we just sat there in silence for a while. It wasn't one of those comfortable silences either. It was heavy and awkward. Max finally storms out, saying he needs time to think. I spent that night at my sister's house. I needed to get away from the tension. The following weekend was Max's family reunion, and I was not looking forward to it. Max insisted we go, saying it was a chance to reconnect with the family. Yeah, reconnect with the family while they're all drunk and making fun of me. Sounds great. At the reunion, guess who shows up? Leo. And he's clearly drunk. I just wanted to hide in a corner and make it all go away. But no, we had to play some group game, and he starts making these sarcastic comments directed at me. I look over at Max, and he's laughing at Leo's jokes. I couldn't believe it. I confronted Max about it, and we ended up in a shouting match in front of everyone. He accused me of not understanding family loyalty. What does that even mean? I told him I was loyal to the family we have together, and I wasn't okay with him supporting Leo's addiction. In the middle of all this, our son was just standing there, looking confused. I grabbed his hand, and we left. That night was just as bad as I thought it would be. Max sent me a text saying he was staying with his family. Just like that. No discussion, no trying to work it out. A few days later, he came back home looking disheveled and exhausted. He apologized for the fight, but said he needed to support Leo. I asked him if he'd been drinking, and he denied it. Like, come on, I can smell it on him. The next day, he was getting ready to visit Leo again and wanted to take our son. I put my foot down and said there was no way in hell I would allow it. We got into another argument, and I just couldn't take it anymore. That's when Max finally admits that he's been giving Leo money. Like, what the actual hell? He thinks it's okay to hand over our hard-earned money to someone who's just going to waste it. He said family is important and stormed out again. After that, I decided I needed to talk to someone. I've been feeling so lost and alone in this. So I reached out to a therapist for myself. Max came home late one night, smelling like alcohol. He admitted he went to see Leo and got caught up in the moment. Whatever the hell that means. He packed a bag and said he needed time away to figure things out. He waved goodbye but didn't look back. I just stood there feeling this void in the room. The next day, I get a text from Max saying he's staying with Leo indefinitely. Indefinitely. So here I am, trying to figure out what the hell to do next. I can't just sit here and let my life fall apart. Edit, I never thought I'd be in this position. I called off the engagement after Max's latest stunt. I filed for legal separation to protect myself and my son. I've been staying with my sister while looking for a new place. I know we may need to involve a lawyer, but I'm trying to avoid it for now. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.